you spend any time around watches, you know the ones that stick with you aren't just about specs, they're about intent. And that's exactly where the Cadola Buxton Automatic lands. Inspired by Britain's historic Buxton Raceway, this is a watch that leans into classic motorsport. The 38mm cushion case hits that sweet spot we're always talking about. Compact, wearable, and full of character. It feels vintage-inspired but not precious, more daily driver than display case. The dial is clean and legible, with subtle racing cues and a date at 3, while inside you'll find a reliable automatic Seiko NH35 movement. Cadola pairs the Buxton with a perforated leather rally strap, reinforcing the motorsport DNA, and with 100 meters of water resistance, it's built for real use, not just desk duty. Whether you go for more subdued colorways or one of the bolder racing-inspired options, there's a lot of personality packed into this watch. If you're looking for a thoughtfully designed automatic that blends heritage, usability, and value, the Cadola Buxton is well worth a closer look. Please visit cadola1946.com. That is CADOLA1946.com. Now, back to the episode.
Hello and welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast. My name is Zach Kazan. I'm the editorial director at Worn and Wound. Thank you for joining us for another podcast. I've got a guest today back on the podcast after, several weeks absence. It's been a while since we've had the Apple Watch accessory kingpin himself, Ed Jelley, making his return to the Worn and Wound podcast. Ed, how's it going?
It's going great. I'm not a shill. I'm not here to push that. I do one thing and you guys just run with it. And now I've pigeonholed myself into the Apple Watch guy. I liked it much better when I was the national man of mystery who just kind of shows up in Worn and Wound content here and there. And now I'm the Apple Watch kingpin of New York, kind of like
now, the Apple Watch kingpin of Long Island.
Long Island.
Yeah. You show up less frequently now because you're just so busy,
dude.
Just shipping Apple Watch cases all over the world. I imagine.
Actually,
right?
yeah. I've done my fair share of fighting the post office with international shipping, and it sounds cool to start like a little e-commerce brand, and then you spend most of your time living in Shopify's back end and just like printing out packing slips and making sure that you've ordered enough Allen keys for this week. Really thrilling stuff.
Sounds great. You made this bed. Now you have to sleep in it.
Yep, I've gone too far.
I do want to get a little bit of an update for you on this venture of yours, and we'll familiarize our listeners with it momentarily. Yeah, you're back on the podcast today to talk about our first. We're going to share.
We did it together. Zach and I actually did this together in person in real life.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about our first luxury watch experiences. We thought this would be an interesting topic to discuss because we find ourselves at Warner Brown talking about like this idea of like luxury watchmaking. We cover luxury watches, but I think our tastes are like often much more down to earth. But
we're for the people, we're like a real people's $1,000 to $5,000 completely not totally need it to survive watch people.
I think that's fair. We just thought it would be a fun thing to examine what that first experience was like. When you decided to pull the trigger on like a quote unquote luxury watch and what that means and how it kind of like changes your thoughts on owning these things. I think there's something to unpack there. Maybe not, in which case this might be
No, there is. I had a full mental breakdown complete with guilt and the whole 9 yards, so we can get into that a little later.
We love to examine guilt and other complex emotions on this podcast. Before we do that, of course, we will do the wrist check. What are you wearing today, Ed?
I don't even know if this is a luxury watch. It's not my first luxury watch, but it is a Seiko SPB 143.
Yep. That's a good one.
I guess
that is not a luxury watch. I'm going to go ahead and say
no, it's a tool watch.
Yeah, that's not a luxury watch.
It's over $1,000 though. Like what, like I know luxury has a very nebulous thing, and like to the the Timex wares in the world, I'm sure $1,000 Seiko is quite the luxury. So I'm going to check my privilege here.
Well, we can
Luxury to
talk about
some,
that.
but
Like, what
yeah,
makes something
what
luxury?
makes it
Is it
luxury?
strictly price, or is it some other
Mystique.
thing? Yeah.
Yeah.
You've had that watch for a while. Am I
Yeah, I've had it for a good while now. I don't wear it too often, but I'll be honest, I was like kind of rushing out of the house this morning and drop my kid at school. It's like negative 10 degrees. It's horrible. And
That's
it
very
was
cool.
downstairs. So I did not wear this because it's special and it spoke to me. It was literally there. And
Yeah.
here we are
Yeah.
on the pod. What are you wearing?
I'm wearing my my Nomos Metro, which is a limited edition that they did with Ace Jewelers. It has like a two-tone orange dial. It clashes with the shirt I'm wearing like very badly. Like it
Yeah.
actually doesn't look great, but
You look fine.
like it's
No, I think you
as
look
like an
great.
ensemble. It's hard to pair an orange dial
Yes.
with anything. But I like this watch a lot. It's I kind of like resisted this case for a while. I owned a few other Nomos watches over the years,
What are
but
the lugs like
never.
on that one? That was always my beef with Nomos. I'm like, wow, that thing is great. And then the lugs are just like 8 feet long or like wires or like.
Yeah. So this one has wire lugs,
Okay.
which was something I was not. I felt like I was maybe like a little allergic to it, but I took a flyer on this because I like the color combination. I like the collaborations they've done with Ace in the past, and it wears very well.
Yeah,
It's
Nomos
very
is
comfortable.
This
And
is fun.
yeah.
What did I try on? One of those, like, remember when they came out with like the dark blue edition and that was like a big deal? This is probably like 6 or
Mhm.
7 years ago. And I tried one on at a Tourneau and I was like, wow, this is sick. And then like the sales lady started doing her thing, like, that looks great on you. But then even my wife was like, nah, that's kind of like an Ed Jelley watch. And I didn't end up buying it because it was a lot of money and I had a very small child at the time and it felt, I don't know, not responsible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I hear you.
I chose responsibility. And no, I love Nomos though. And I've never owned one. And maybe I'm thinking about it again. I don't know. This
Oh,
is
wow.
interesting. I don't know.
Exciting.
I don't know. They have
You
some
don't
cool
really
stuff.
buy watches anymore.
I don't buy watches. I
Yeah.
sell them. No,
Right. Well,
not professionally. Just because I'm like, oh, I haven't worn this guy in 2 years, and it's just, it's like a really extremely poor performing high yield savings account sitting on the top of my dresser. Just
yeah. Yep. No, but sometimes it's you gotta call the herd sometimes.
Yeah.
So we got a number of housekeeping things that we wanted to get to before we get into the main topic. So first things first, let's talk about I just quick check, like, how's the business doing? Familiarize listeners, reacquaint them with what you've been working on over
Yeah.
these last
The
few
short
months.
version is I had an Apple Watch Ultra sitting around that I wasn't wearing because I much prefer wearing a mechanical watch, and all the health metrics make me more anxious than feeling secure. So we ditched the heart rate and threw that thing in a drawer for a couple of years. And I ended up buying my oldest kid a 3D printer for his birthday. And of course, I'm going to mess around with it while he's sleeping. And I just like, let me make a case for this Apple Watch so I can kind of use all the features of the phone, but not have the big distracting phone. Because my screen time is high. I think everyone's screen
Yep.
time is high. And I think everyone who has a screen time that's over an hour is still probably too high, because when you start doing the math, it gets real depressing real fast how much time you spend staring down at your phone. And the Apple Watch can pretty much do all the things your phone can do. You can stay in touch with your buddies. You can get some quick information from the world's worst assistant, Siri, get the weather, not miss an email, but you also don't have that, like, let me sit on this and scroll for an hour, because it's not a very fun device to interact with. So my cases are 3D printed cases that kind of turn this thing into almost like an iPod. Like, I don't know if anybody remembers the iPod Nano. Just
Sure.
a small,
Great device.
pocketable device that you can get your essentials on and use your Apple Watch in a different way. And if you have a cellular plan, you can just leave your phone at home. And that's kind of been the idea. And ironically, I've spent more time than ever on my phone since turning this into a business. It was a couple Instagram posts that went kind of wild, and enough people asked to buy them. And I'm like, all right, let's roll this up and see what happens. And no, we're doing pretty good. Shipping out quite a few packages every day. It's a Sisyphusian task of just like keeping that boulder rolling up the hill, trying to fill orders. But it's been great. It's been fun. I appreciate everything. And it's fun. It's kind of a culmination of all my skills and talents.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a really cool idea. We're really it's exciting to see the response to this grow and know that people are excited. And we've covered it, on the website. We'll
And I
leave a
appreciate
link.
that very much.
Yeah, like it's I just want to be clear. This is not like sponsored or anything, but like Ed's a friend of Warren and Wound, and he's doing something interesting,
and I appreciate that.
So we want to we just want to highlight it because it's a cool project. So we'll leave a link to our previous coverage of that product in the show notes. And you also have I think, a video coming out relatively soon where
Yeah, with Garrett, little
yeah,
EDC talk, little
you and Garrett did a little,
little
yeah,
shop chat there. So that'll be fun.
that'll be out soon too. Um, we're recording this podcast the Monday after the Super Bowl. Did you watch the Super
The
Bowl?
Benito Bowl.
The Benito Bowl, yeah. Did you watch?
I watched most of it. I did have to put my kids to bed. I don't really care about football.
Neither do
I
I.
care
This is
about.
the first Super Bowl I watched like intentionally
Okay.
in years. Like
Are you a big
like I
New England Patriots guy? Are you
no,
like a?
not a New England Patriots. No, come on. Absolutely not.
Okay. Hey, I don't know
No.
what you guys do up there.
Neither do I. But I've never been a Patriots fan. I'm old, and I can remember when I was a little kid, the Patriots were kind of like the laughing stock of the NFL, and like there was always talk of like move them to Hartford, move them to Providence or whatever, and like they were just a joke, and no one you would get made fun of in elementary school if you like the Patriots. So
Not anymore.
I just never
Well,
jumped on the bandwagon.
yeah.
To be honest, but
Are you a football guy? Do you do
no,
football?
no,
Okay.
I've never.
All right.
Yeah, so like I have like
Well, you said
zero
you did do the
investment.
Patriots. I'm like, is he? Maybe he's a Jets fan. I don't know.
No, I just have
think anybody is.
very little investment. For one reason or another, I found myself watching last night, and because there was all this conversation about the halftime show. Of course, it's a big cultural
Yeah.
event. Like
Yeah,
it's
shout out
just
Puerto
gonna be
Rico.
a lot of commentary on that, and there was some watch spotting. At the Super Bowl last night, lots of luxury watches worn by the commentators, and of course Bad Bunny wearing a malachite dial Royal Oak, like during the
Yeah.
halftime show. Like lots of visibility for a very, very high end exclusive watch.
I mean, no notes.
No, yeah.
Unless he turned it off to go watch the Kid Rock halftime show. I don't think anyone's talking about what watch he was wearing. I assume an Invicta.
Yeah,
Something big and
that would check out. Yeah, apparently Kid Rock was lip syncing. I can't even imagine the breach of integrity there. It's just
yeah, dude.
just crazy.
The King of Detroit letting us down.
Yeah. I also wanted to get your thoughts on some new releases, Ed. We've been talking a lot about this new reverse Panda Speedmaster, which has been but probably in the early stages, the most talked about watch of the year, I would think. To this point, it's only February 9th as we record this. But you're a Speedmaster guy.
I'm a Speedmaster guy.
And so I want to get your thoughts on the new Speedy.
I mean, I think it looks great. I love the white one that came out a couple years ago. I love the classic black one. And then you take both of them and you smash them in the middle. And just like the picture on Warning Wound shows, it's a great mix. I mean, I love a reverse Panda dial. I think that the white subdials just really pop. And I think it adds a little bit more interest to a watch that can be pretty plain. For me, the Speedmaster is a classic. And, up until like the most recent version, like all of them were essentially the same as the watch you could buy like back in the 60s, like at very little incremental changes. And now it feels like they've gone up market a bit more. I mean, they cost quite a bit more money than they did even 5-6 years ago. But like the bracelet is so much better. I actually bought a bracelet of the newest version to put on my slightly older version, and it's a heck of a package. I mean, I think it's just a great looking watch, and they kind of brought the look slightly up market, but still kept the DNA of the Speedmaster. I think like my biggest thing is like, the joke would be, oh, it's another week, another Speedmaster release. And I do feel like that's kind of quieted down. I feel like we haven't gotten like 10 Dark Side of the Moon Speedmasters, last year. They were doing the first Omega in space for a while. You get the higher end gold ones, and then you get the throwback vintage Ed White. And like, I feel like they've kind of slowed down, and this feels like a really great watch to kind of slow that down with and let it sit in the lineup as not any sort of limited edition or, oversize it or put an automatic movement in it or whatever. It's like for me, this seems like a really nice way to be true to the Speedmaster roots while adding something kind of new and exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I fully agree. I think that there was a point in time where it was kind of just like a meme to make fun of Omega for continuing to like just milk the Speedmaster, and there were so many like limited editions and spin-offs, and they're just like too many, and it was just a bad joke. But they really have slowed down, and it seems like they have this strategy to like expand the Omega Speedmaster Professional like as a little collection within the collection, just like creating like more moon watches,
Yeah,
that
there's quite a few. I'm on the Omega site right now, and that's why I'm not making eye contact. And under the Moonwatch Professional, which is like the classic one,
yeah.
not your reduced or your automatic or your racing or any of that. There's quite a few SKUs. I mean, granted, they're milking the bracelet and strap options, but there's stuff that's like not even on my radar, like the Moonshine Gold two tone. That's
Mhm.
$20,000, and then there's the you scroll down more and you got the full rose gold set in a gold for 48 grand, and then you got the beautiful green dial gold case for 50. But they're all Speedmasters. um
It seems like it used to be, there was this idea in the community that like the Speedmaster Professional was one watch. It was the simple matte black dial with a hand wound movement. And
you're gonna get
now,
sapphire or acrylic, and those are all your options, and you're gonna thank
yeah.
us for it.
And now you have these additional options like in steel that are like a little bit of a step up in terms of like luxury, I think. And we'll link to Zach Weiss's video and article, where he discusses this. I think he kind of just sort of like nails that it's just a question of how basic do you want it versus how kind of like luxe do you want it. Like these newer ones, the white dial and this reverse panda, just offer like a little bit of a more refined take, but not, it doesn't dramatically change like the character of the watch.
No, it's still
It's
very true to form.
Yeah, it's not like like the ceramic ones, like that dramatically changes like the
Yeah,
character
and they were
of the
bigger
watch.
too. I think the case was bigger, and a lot of
Yeah.
those didn't a lot of those have automatic movements in there too?
Yeah,
Or some of
they've
them
made
that,
them with automatic
yeah,
movements, yeah.
and it just kind of kills what the Speedmaster is for me.
What do you
The
think
one-
of obviously there's a ton of conversation about the pricing of these watches, and then people are just kind of like flipping out that there's a Speedmaster Professional that's over $10,000 in this new
Yeah.
reference. How do you kind of like think through that?
We'll touch on it later when we talk about our first luxury watch purchases with pricing and the Speedmaster specifically. Little spoiler alert, but like your standard steel Speedmaster on bracelet with an acrylic crystal is clocking in at $7,800, and then if you want sapphire, you're bumped up to 9, and if for some reason you want white subdials, you're 10,4.
Mhm.
So that's like a pretty big swing for like something that's similar. Now, how are they justifying the subdials being $2,800?
So I mean that's a good question. I think there's I have a couple ideas. So first of all, like there's like all kinds of like rhodium plating and stuff like on this
Step
watch that
dial.
doesn't exist on the other watches, which is potentially an added cost. Omega is a huge company. Like I think they probably like amortized that like
Yeah, yeah.
over the years. Like it's not actually like that big a deal. The dial has a different treatment. It's like a lacquer style finish. It's not as I'm sure it's like it's slightly more complicated to produce than like the standard
Yeah, I mean, the
matte.
standard Moonwatch kind of looks like paper
Yeah,
in a nice way. It's a very plain matte, single texture, single depth, little bit of depth, but
yeah.
not a sandwich, not a dual layer rhodium plated lacquered double plate step dial
So
as
yeah,
stated by the copy.
I think that the dials are like legitimately like more complex to make, but they don't equal like the delta in price. And I think this is just a luxury brand being a luxury brand. They're trying to like extract a little bit more money out of their consumers for something that they want us to perceive as higher end,
Right. I
even though
mean,
like you and I look at this, and watch collectors, enthusiasts look at this, and they understand like it's maybe like better in terms of like the certain finishing, but it doesn't equate to like a jump up in price. But this is like just a luxury brand being a luxury brand,
right.
I
I
think.
mean, you look at the target market. I don't think like your average, like, average income family in America or the world, unless you're like an extreme enthusiast or you have like a milestone birthday or you got a raise or a bonus or something. Like, I don't think the average person is strolling into the Omega boutique and like thinking about 10 grand. And I think that people who can just be like, oh, that new Omega looks great because I stopped in the boutique, and like they might not even know it's the Speedmaster. But what's another $1,400 for their target audience? It's probably not
Yeah.
a deal breaker. I imagine.
We observe it a little differently because we see these watches released over time, and we see that the increases happen, at like a certain pace, and it feels, I think it feels dramatic to us, but I think you're right that like, the average customer coming in off the street, who's interested in a Speedmaster in 2026, like might it might not register with them that
They
this
might
is
not even
like,
want a Speedmaster. They just might want a watch, and here's the watch store that's attached to the mall that I'm getting new shoes in.
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's part of it too. But from the collector and enthusiast side, it feels like a direct slap in the face from
Yeah.
the big Swiss brands. No, it's
The
everything's more
other
expensive.
somewhat, I think cynical, but perhaps realistic take on this, and I've seen a couple comments on this, is that this is just kind of like a reaction to tariffs, from last year. It's Omega trying
Mhm.
to like claw back, some of that lost, maybe some
Yeah,
lost
and
revenue.
had going forward when there's economic uncertainty and you
Yep.
may or may not be slapped with tariffs, you don't want to increase the price to your consumer because that's going to reflect poorly on your brand. But, you might be paying the tariff,
Yeah.
like that you don't even know about that doesn't exist yet. So I'm sure, margins and all that other stuff are just, it doesn't matter in the
Yeah.
space. It's not based in reality. It's not, it's not a
Yeah.
commodity good. There's no,
It's all made up.
it's all fake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any any other new releases on your radar, Ed, that have come out in the last couple of weeks? There's a new AP, multiple new APs. There's a new Ming that just dropped this morning.
I
What
actually
else?
liked the Niton Prima.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say it. When you Google it, the first thing that comes up is Nixon watches available at PacSun, which is like that sucks to
No,
be.
it's not what you want.
No, not when you're reviving a brand that sounds shockingly close to a fashion brand commonly available in the mall. But this grabbed me on Instagram, and then I'm like, this is either going to be $5,000 or $50,000, and it was definitely closer to 50. But this is a really cool manually wound rectangular watch with an in-house movement. It just, I don't know, it looked really cool. I love the dial, cool finish, cool looking watch, but not for me,
Yeah, no,
unfortunately.
this is a really cool project. It's very low production. Like you mentioned,
Extremely low.
yeah, and it's a revival of a historic brand that has like a real kind of like cult following around it. Jump hours are just everywhere. Right now, another new watch that just came out this morning is a new Fears jump hour with an aventurine and mother of pearl dial. Looks really cool. We'll have an article on this new Nighton watch on the website as we speak. It'll be later this afternoon, so I'll add it to the show notes for this podcast. But yeah, it's a really cool project. I'm excited to see how this latest brand revival comes about. Like it is an expensive watch. It's not going to be for everyone for
No,
sure. But
there's no prices on the website. You have to ask, and the old adage, if you have to ask, you can't afford it. I'm not asking.
sometimes even when you do ask, you can't afford it.
Yeah. How much is that? Oh, never mind. That's the world that I'm in right now.
Yeah.
Not in the market for a 47,000 Swiss. What is it? What is their franc? Is it franc?
Swiss franc, yeah.
Yeah, Swiss franc. The Swiss franc.
Yep, the Swiss franc.
That's a lot of cheese, as they would say.
It is indeed quite a bit.
know.
All right, Ed, you ready to move on to the main
I'm ready to
topic
go
today?
I'm tired of the small talk. Let's get into the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, let's get into the big talk. So we're going to talk about our first luxury watch purchase. And I think we can also talk about like what makes something a luxury watch purchase. Like, we already identified the Seiko on your wrist is like not what we would typically think of as a luxury watch, even if like the price might be, feel luxurious to some.
Right.
But there is something like specific, I think, about like buying a luxury watch or any luxury product.
So why don't we
whether it's
start with our own loose definition? What makes a watch a luxury watch to Zach Kazan, managing editor of Worn and Wound?
I think a luxury watch is a watch that is, first of all, it's even beyond like the idea that like any watch is a watch you don't need, like to be a luxury item.
Right.
Like it truly has to be something extraneous, like in your life, something that is completely unnecessary. Like I think that's like, to me, like the first definition of a luxury watch. Like any watch that's solid gold, like no one needs that. It's a luxury item. I think the other thing that makes something luxury is the way that it is made is really important. To me, luxury implies that a certain amount of craft is involved in the making of the thing itself, and that it is not like mass produced on an assembly line. So like there's a certain level of care and commitment involved in actually like in producing the thing. And that can happen in wildly different in wildly different ways. So like an Omega Speedmaster, I think most people would agree is a luxury watch. They are made in factories. There is like automation, made in
I
an
mean, even
Omega
Rolex.
Speedmaster.
Rolex,
And yeah, Rolex is another.
exclusive, but it's exclusive. Do we know if they have a whole warehouse of them like the Diamond people? Artificial scarcity and all that. But a Rolex is the one watch out there, really, if any, that says, this is a luxury. And a lot of people use that as like an I've made it kind of purchase, or like, you celebrate it with that because it means something to the world at large. I think it's kind of interesting, though, when we talk about luxury watches in that way with the craftsmanship and everything else. And then like you look at like luxury, like fashion brands. And like I feel like a lot of that craftsmanship uh, kind of mystique that you're talking about doesn't necessarily carry over to like a luxury brand when you talk to like somebody who's not necessarily into watches. So like it's kind of
Mhm.
interesting to me how luxury can be like a logo on a shirt that's still made in, a factory in Malaysia somewhere, or it can mean it's a hand stitched pair of shoes made in New England, but the brand doesn't mean anything to anybody. It's kind of interesting how I feel like it's kind of a personal definition as well, but I think largely like what you said is probably accepted by the watch community at large that it's something that care has been put into it. It takes things that next level over your standard stuff. But here's the thing, is it tied to price for you? Like, do you find that like is there like a hard bottom to the entrance into a luxury watch, or do you think that there can be a luxury watch that's under $3,000?
Um, I in theory, I think yes, there probably can be a luxury watch that's under $3,000. I think it's inextricably tied to price though, because at the end of the day, the people who make these things want to continue to make them, and to do that, they need to make a profit on the things that they're
Right.
making, and so it needs to cost a certain amount of money, for them to do that. And if they're doing, if they're making a luxury product at a high level, they need to, it costs more to do that. So yeah, I mean, I think that like it is possible to have a luxury watch at a like an approachable price. Like Anordane might be a good example of this. I don't
Mhm.
know what an Anordane like actually like retails for right now, but like that's a watch that is has an enamel dial, which is a very old craft technique made to a very high level by people who have have really like honed their skill. And it's approachable. It's not, it's a watch that anyone who is like in this hobby can like aspire to and save for and acquire. And it feels handmade because they are,
Right.
handmade.
Yeah, I mean, you go to their website and you got someone painting enamel and mixing enamel, and they have experimental stuff and just a lot of really interesting stuff. But nowadays, an Anordain is like minimum barrier to entry is like $2,700, 2,500 for the Model One. But I don't know, it's kind of crazy how everything's creeping up. I'm gonna have my boomer moment here, like everything's more expensive now. It
Yeah.
is, and I do believe that if you're a brand or a smaller brand and you are putting that money into craftsmanship and supporting artisans and making something that's going to bring people joy because of, it's this object that you get to wear and look at all day and it can be a part of your life, you can kind of justify the price tag a bit more.
Yeah. What do you think about the price question? Like, do you think that a luxury watch can exist at any price point, or is there like a floor? Like, I don't know. I find it tough to like.
It's hard to define.
Yeah, it's hard to like pick like it's hard to pick a number. It's one of those
Yeah.
things where you kind of like know it when you
Yeah, I
see
mean,
it.
for me, it's like I would say if I had to pick a number gun to my head, I hope we're not doing that here. And this is a pretty casual conversation, but I think like 3 grand. I think 3 grand is like the plus or minus a couple $100. Like that's like the point where like a lot of people can't just impulse buy. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
For me, like the luxury aspect is like you got to think about it. And that can
Sure.
change based on your current financial situation and your budget and your goals with your hard-earned cash. But I think a luxury to somebody has to be something that you covet. So like it's the tab you never close on the browser. And
Sure.
it's the thing you keep thinking about, like, oh, I should probably really want this thing, but I don't know. And like it should be something that you have to really think about before hitting buy. Like if there was like a $200 Seiko that like I thought was cool enough, and like I'm like, oh, all right, maybe I'll tighten the belt for a couple other things for the next week or two, but like I can just buy that without
Yeah.
having to think about it. But like if the $3,000 Anordain popped up, then I'm like, wow, all right. Well, it'd probably be gone already because they sell quick. But something like that where you got to keep that tab open and think about it and justify it. I feel like that for me is what luxury means.
So that's the emotional quality, like the personal, nature of a luxury object for you. What does the watch actually have to have at $3,000 for it to feel like a luxury
I
item? Or
think you
does it not
mean
really, do you not really think of it in those terms?
I do. I mean, I think you want to even though it is considered luxury, you do have to kind of justify the cost in a way. So maybe it comes with a better quality bracelet and it's not like some, crappy aftermarket thing that just, feels like it's made with tinfoil. You want quality machining on your bracelet. You want some nice finishing because it does make a difference. I mean, I own a couple Grand Seikos and the thing that drew me to them was the finishing was next level compared to
Mhm.
my regular Seikos. So something where the finishing is elevated, I want, you want a movement to be elevated or at least the higher grade, like a decorated movement. Any handwork in the finishing is always appreciated. You want some special sauce over what your standard, you know, $300 to $1,000 watch is going to offer, which would
Right.
probably be an off the shelf movement and not regulated particularly well. You want it to be accurate. I think just taking it up that next level in everything, bracelet, finishing, machining, case shape, design, brand heritage, even the warranty is stupid, but that makes a difference too. You want to
Tell
make
me
sure
about
that
brand heritage, because that's a thing that I think a lot of people, they, maybe they're new to the hobby or they are outsiders looking in and they hear people talking about brand heritage and they're like, what? Who cares? I feel like
right.
there's
Okay. So
there's an eye roll there,
I
but
think it's
it
kind of
is kind of
corny,
important.
but it also is kind of important. So for me, the corny aspect is yeah, I'm not going to space. I'm not going to the moon. I really don't want to. Even if it was an option, you would not find me on Artemis. It's just not in the cards. Way too much of a sissy to be doing that.
Fair enough.
But I think for me, the brand heritage kind of just shows that the brand that you resonate with, does cool shit. Um, and that's really the long and short of it to me. Wouldn't you want to support a brand that's pushing their tech and their movements and the quality of their things to do stuff that you think is cool?
Mhm.
For me, that's the biggest thing with heritage is that Omega put this watch up to be the watch worn on the moon because they thought that at the time that obviously it had to meet a spec, but to them that was the crux of human ingenuity and technological advancement was getting people to the moon and even just the manufacturer, the machinist who made the nuts and bolts on those moon landers has to be proud because they're pushing to do this big, huge thing and just the fact that you're pushing towards that is cool with me. And I
Yeah.
would want to support a brand that's continuously pushing cool stuff. Omega has become synonymous with the space watch and they have the X-33 and astronauts on the space station still wear that thing. And
Yep.
it's not very cool for everyday wear. It's a big, weird half, analog digital watch that's kind of clunky, but I think it's super cool. They're still
Yeah.
pushing for that. And with Rolex with the diving and the exploration and you're backing that. You might not, you might be more in an office with your sub on than you are underwater, but they're building these things to those specs that continue to push humanity forward. And I think
Yeah.
that's the coolest part.
Can I add something to the brand heritage thing, which I think is kind of adjacent to it? And that is access to a brand that you have as a customer, I think is something that brands can tap into that makes it feel like you have a luxury product and are having a luxury experience. And that's something that's kind of agnostic of price, but it still adds kind of an element, just a kind of a heightened experience into the ownership process. And this is something that we talk about a lot. As a company, thinking around the wind up watch fairs, you have experiences with these brands, you get to know the people behind the watches. That's a luxury experience too.
Oh, for sure.
When you buy a Fears watch, for example, which is I think Fears now makes a watch that I think most people would consider as a luxury product, maybe entry level luxury. But the thing that really heightens it is they have a very accessible team, and you can talk to Nicholas Bowman Scargill, about your watch and what they're working on, and that's important, and that makes the customers feel like they're having a more intimate relationship with
Right.
the brand, and
Right.
that is a type of luxury as well. And it's something that I think a lot of brands that maybe are newer that don't have like the heritage of a brand like Omega, for example, can tap into now because you don't need like history to have like
No,
really
you can
excellent
just,
customer service and communication with your clients.
or you could be into cool stuff. I mean, what was it Jacques Bianchi? Am I making that up? The
Hmm.
brand name that did that dive watch with Brock, who
Yes.
is
Yep.
a Navy diver. If I'm pretty sure that's what he does, or it's a professional diver. And like, that's just a brand that's not, not in everybody's radar, but like they're backing cool stuff by
Hmm.
supporting somebody that's out there doing cool stuff. Can be a reason why you might resonate with them and want this like titanium dive watch that like is like built to a professional's specifications, which is just it's cool. It's
Yep.
cool, and like supporting the brand that does things that you resonate with is can be that heritage. It doesn't have to be old to be
Yeah.
cool.
Yep. No, for sure. All right, Ed. So let's talk about the actual like experience, the first experience of buying what you deem to be a luxury watch. I think we've kind of like we've hinted around it, but tell us what was your first luxury watch experience in your watch collecting
In
life,
my
and how
watch
did you
collection,
identify it as a luxury watch?
yeah. Let's see. So the first watch that I consider a luxury watch purchase was my Omega Speedmaster Professional. I bought it in 2017, which was the year my oldest son was born. So I got some of our own heritage. I know you love birth year watches there, Zach. Big fan. I think it's a little different when you buy the birth year watch with someone else in mind, as opposed to just like, let me go find a 1998 Submariner. Or
Agreed.
1988 Submariner that I was not born in 98.
Agreed. Listen, I just want to say, I'll interject here. I've made fun of birth year watches for a long time. I think
Yes.
it's kind of silly. I'm not making fun of the concept of fatherhood and passing something down to your kid. That's a wonderful thing.
Hot
And
news,
it's
folks. Zach hates kids.
Well, listen, that's not breaking news.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, listen,
no,
I think it's a wonderful thing. And you've written about that,
right.
eloquently on the website or made a video about it. We'll link to that too. But yeah, no, that's a wonderful thing that you've done for all of the Jelley brood.
Yeah, all two of them.
Yeah.
But no, I and spending money on a luxury watch when you're expecting a kid, and like I was 28 or 27, 28 when my son was born, and like you got a lot going on. Like, I really want to do this thing. And like, I had like a full on existential crisis. Like, this was the most money I think I had ever spent on like anything strictly for myself outside of like a house, or like, I think I was leasing cars back then. Like, the concept of something that really wasn't going to better my life or my family's life and just strictly be kind of like a selfish purchase that I can
just a thing for you to enjoy.
It's just a thing. But like, I had a good year with like in work. I had a good year in like, my side hustle stuff started kicking off, and like my PayPal account was like sitting pretty with like enough money to buy
It's a nice feeling.
a Speedmaster. Yeah, it's great. Love a PayPal funny money account that's just waiting to be spent on something dumb and selfish. I'm saying that with 100%. I'm serious. It's just the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted a Speedmaster. I had actually never tried one on. And I bought mine technically gray market from the now defunct Chicago Watch, because you can get a new Speedmaster in box with the giant freaking box that's still sitting in my basement, because there's nowhere anyone can reasonably store a box that's probably not eligible for international carry-on. It's so big. They've since scaled them down, thank God. But like, I have this big dumb box sitting in my basement. So anyway, I had never tried one on, and I had this money sitting there, and it was in a tab, and I'd been researching, and do I want Hesalite? Do I want a Sapphire? I ended up going Hesalite. And it was just sitting in a tab, and I'm like, should I do it? Should I do it? Should I do it? For weeks. And I ended up pulling the trigger, and I got it delivered to my office that I'm sitting in right now. And I remember when it came, I had like a bit of a like, oh my God, FedEx is here. Let's go. Tore the box open. And it was weird because like they don't ship the watch in the box, right? So like I have this box with a giant box in a box, and then bubble wrapped is like the little plastic retail package.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it was just a little tiny box and bubble wrapped. And like, I think this has something anti-luxury about the whole experience, is that like a lot of people want that, like, you go into the boutique, they fit the bracelet to you, you get a drink, You can get a little snack. They, shake your hand. Congratulations on your purchase. But at the time, like the Speedmaster was like $5,500. So like, is it worth $2,000 for me to go into the boutique and like I don't even drink like a glass of water and a chocolate for $2,000? But I do have to say
They make you feel so special though.
I know.
They really, yeah.
I was always very anti that until I opened my box and like it's just not there and it just crammed in the side in bubble wrap. It kind of makes it feel not particularly special when
and
you've
now you've
spent
got these
more
packing peanuts to clean up, and it's just like it becomes a and you've got a box. Like I don't know about you, but like I've like boxes come in. I'm just like every box represents like a trip to the dumpster and an errand and like just something I just don't want to
stick it in the basement for another year. So I got it and like I remember putting it on and just feeling very deeply disappointed. And I think because it was more money than I had spent on anything for myself like ever. And I'd never tried one on before. And I had this like mystique in my head, like what this luxury watch was supposed to feel like. And I'm like, I don't think this is what it's supposed to feel like. This kind of sucks. And I remember my mom wasn't retired at the time. So she was like at her desk and she's like, you don't like it, box it up and send it back. I'm like, I think I'm going to box it up and send it back. I don't think that this is like for me. And then like I consulted with my cohort of enablers and I'm sitting there at my desk wearing it really carefully. I didn't resize the bracelet yet because, God forbid I scratch the thing and taking a pin out and then I can't return it. And I had this like full day of just like weird guilt and like not sure if I like this thing. And I'm like not sure if it was worth it.
Mm.
And that kind of sat like that for like a couple days until I was like, I either got to size the bracelet and wear this thing and enjoy it, or I got to mail it back before like the 5 days return period is up. And, it's pretty much 9 years later and I wear that thing like 5 times a week. So it was this weird like mix of emotions. Like you have this like idea of this luxury purchase changing your life and like it doesn't for me. It kind of just made me feel like weird and like, why did I do this? And then after like, it's stupid, but like after you get that first little scratch on it, like it's kind of yours now. And then you can start, or me at least, you can start to enjoy it, wear it everywhere, beat it up, not on purpose, of course, but like, you just kind of, I just pop it on. I don't think about it and it goes wherever I go. And maybe I'm not fishing with it because I don't want it to fill with salt water, but it's now it's like a part of my life and I couldn't imagine not having it. And I am glad that I bought it. And like, even, I bought it when my first son was born and like my kids think watches are cool. My youngest son loves playing with the pushers. I make sure he doesn't hit them out of order and break the movement. But, it's now become like, oh, that's dad's thing. And like, it's kind of like turned from this like weird, oh my God, why'd I spend this much money on it to like probably one of my prized possessions. I mean, if the house is on fire, I'd grab that and I grab the kids first and try to get the dogs out. But
never grab a watch, like
no, it sits on my nightstand though. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't have to go into a safe to get it. Like it's literally like the thing that's like, all right, off my wrist and plunk it down and then back on in the morning. Like most days, I'm not going back into a fire to get a watch.
All right, don't want to say into a microphone.
No.
You would. Yeah, I'm
not going to do it. Don't do that. Nobody do that. Get out.
Don't do that.
Grab your kids and run down the stairs.
Bad advice. Yeah.
Bad advice, terrible advice. But like, that's the one thing that like, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that and maybe like one of my bass guitars would be like the things that I've had longer. I wouldn't go back for them, but I'm saying those are the things that would really, really hurt if they were to be gone. It's kind of changed over time. And also like, $3,500, yes, is a lot of money. And that was a luxury purchase. And it was at a time in my life where like $3,500 was a lot of money. But now that basic entry Speedmasters double that. Yeah. And if you want one with white subdials and some rhodium plating, you're another $2,800 on top of that. So like essentially you're walking around with like a $7,000 to plus watch that you got in at a good time for. So the whole kind of experience changed and like I'm really glad I have it. And then like I think I'm like, I don't know if I'd buy it right now. Like I don't know if I'd spend that $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 on the same watch. So I'm like, I'm glad I did it. And like I kind of tend to hang on to things and I'm not a flipper.
Yeah.
So they've kind of just sat there and been things that I've enjoyed for nearly a decade now. And like, the cost per wear really comes down when you keep things for that long.
Yeah. You bought that Speedmaster at like the right time to buy a Speedmaster, I think. And I think it's really interesting too, that you describe a situation where like where like you felt regret immediately and like kind of pushed through it like and held on to it. I think a lot of people have that experience. People in this hobby, like I think it's very common, eventually you have, you buy a watch and you you put it on and you just don't connect with it, and you immediately kind of identified like, oh, mistake. This is not what I intended it. And this is not what I wanted. I'm not the experience I was hoping to have. And like usually that results in like sending the watch back or selling it
See, now
or
I think it'd be
building up
different.
resentment or something. But
Right.
you
Like if
like hung on to it and it remains like a meaningful possession for you.
but it also like broke through that idea of luxury because like
Yeah.
once you do the first one, it kind of like loses its meaning a bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
because like then you're like your playground of watches like, well, this one was 3,500, so like what's 2,500 over here? Like I could go to 5,000. I got the $3,500 one. It's fine. And then you kind of like you take them off that pedestal with that. For me, with that first purchase, like it kind of loses its like mystique, and then you're like, oh, like now if I got a watch that I spent $5,000 on and I didn't immediately be like, oh, this thing is sick, it would go back like
Yeah.
immediately. Or like, if you find yourself in a brick and mortar and like you try a watch on that like you've been like pining over, and then like you try it on, you're like, nah, nope, don't like it at all, totally off the radar. Then I mean, that was a long
Yeah.
time ago for me in the world of watches, and I've been around a lot longer, and like I don't have that same same first buy hit anymore. It's kind of just like, oh, here's the thing.
Is there something that you like either have your eye on or could conceivably see yourself purchasing at one point that that would simulate that like first hit again? Like, is there like another category of watch or like a price point or something that would make you feel like in a similar way for that, like that, that Speedmaster made you feel like, oh, I've done
You know,
something and like now I'm at like a different different level.
I haven't found it. Like I wanted a Submariner for a while, and then like I tried one on. I went into a boutique. They basically told me to kick rocks, and like
Yeah, they do that.
I'm over it. Like what is getting this $10,000 watch that you have to like beg to get? Like for me, that's like the most uncool thing in the world. Like I'm not buying jewelry. I'm not buying other watches. Like I want the thing or I don't want it at all. And I don't know. Like I thought about it and I was actively like, all right, I can move this, I can move that, and then, hit it with the rest of the PayPal funny money fund and do it. And then like I tried one on, and while it was cool, I'm like, this is not 10 grand. Like I just I can't do it. I don't know if it's just like me being that's just who I am, but like I just can't justify it.
Yeah.
And it's not even about affording it. It's just like, I don't know if this will bring me that much joy. And like, again, I'm glad I held on to the Speedmaster because I don't know if I would buy it now. I mean, and
Yeah.
I still love watches. I can get, I've worn my TGN CWC since I've gotten it like 4 times a week. And I freaking love that watch. And it was $1,000. That was it. I bought it from like one of my local watch guys who's in that whole world, and like I picked it up on the way home from work. Like he lives a couple towns over, and I'm like, this thing is sick, and that's like all I've worn all summer, and that's great. And I get more of a kind of enjoyment out of something like that than I think I would with like this like crazy purchase that like I am gonna feel kind of guilty about doing.
Yeah. I think that's a healthy place to be
Yeah,
overall.
no, I'm not an impulsive person. I tend to overthink stuff, and sometimes I wish I would just do the damn thing, instead of thinking about it for 6 months and weighing out every little this, that, and the other thing. It's a
Yeah,
little
for
bit
sure.
less fun of a way to live, but like I can sleep at night knowing that we're good.
Yeah.
Um,
I
what
so
about you? Do we switch to you?
my first we actually have a similar story. My first luxury watch purchase was also an Omega Speedmaster Professional. I think maybe like a year or two earlier than you, perhaps. But like I had bought a handful of watches that were kind of like going up in price, like before I got to the Speedmaster. I kind of like always wanted a Speedmaster, and like that was sort of, I don't want to say it was like a grail watch, for me at that time, but like it felt like I was heading that way. Like one of the watches I owned before the Speedmaster was a Sin. Is it the 103 or 104? The chronograph. The
103
the
probably, right?
103, yeah. Which was a wonderful watch. And at the time, when I bought that watch, it was the most expensive watch I'd ever bought. But it didn't feel like a luxury purchase. I bought it from Watch Buys. Like it came in a, it came like, via FedEx or whatever. And it was like not like a luxurious sort of like experience. And also like that is a true tool watch. Like it's not,
Oh yeah, that was on my list. I actually had that side by side with the Speedmaster, and that was like 1,400 versus 3,500, and
Yeah.
that was like a big jump from the two.
Yeah. So like that was a, so that was like a precursor watch. I also owned, speaking of Nomos, I had a Nomos Orion before I owned an Omega Speedmaster, and like that I think like could be considered a luxury watch. Like I'd probably consider Nomos like a luxury watch
Oh
now.
yeah, for sure.
At the time, it sort of felt like more of like a forum kind of like
It was like a
insidery
cool
sort
underground
of.
brand. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It sort of felt more like in the not like a micro brand realm, but like adjacent to that. It didn't feel like a luxury purchase to me. Like I loved the watch, but it wasn't feel like a luxury item. But Omega, because I was like still relatively, new to collecting at that level, that price point. Like it just felt like a bigger deal to buy a Speedmaster, like a watch that was like
Oh yeah.
part of the, like people who aren't into watches, like they know the Omega Speedmaster, like it's a thing. Like people might like spot it, like on my wrist or whatever in a way that they wouldn't with like the Zen. So yeah, I remember I bought it from Topper
Okay. Shout out
and
Topper.
yeah, shout out Topper. They're great. And they I think I traded some stuff in and they sent it to me and it came in the huge box
Hmm.
and I had a different experience than you. I immediately loved it. Like it was something that like immediately like made me feel great like to wear that watch. It felt like an accomplishment of some
Right. I'm
kind,
going
which
to the
is
moon tomorrow. I'm gonna
yeah,
get on
it just
that
like
ship and blast me off. I'm ready to go.
I didn't want to go to the moon, but it felt like I had like accomplished is such a weird term to use when you're talking about like buying things that you don't need, but like it
Yeah, but like we're all, we're all apes at the end of the day, and you
yeah.
need that shiny thing that makes you feel good. And like, sure,
It
if you accomplish something, you want to treat yourself, and like that's totally valid.
This was like the shiniest, coolest thing that I had ever acquired, like to that
Right.
to that point in my life. So just like it felt great. And like to your point, I think like you made a really good point about it kind of like breaking the seal and opening up like new possibilities in your mind for what you might indulge in later, which is a very dangerous thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's like
Um
drugs, and do they say that?
yeah,
I
it's a
don't, I don't,
gateway.
I'm
Yeah.
so, yeah, gateway drug. There
Yeah.
you go.
It's a gateway
I don't
drug.
even
Yeah.
know the phrase. I'm so out of the,
Yeah.
not a big drug guy. Very,
Not you heard it here first, folks.
not a,
Ed Jelley, not a big
not a
drug
big
guy.
drug guy.
Not a big drug guy.
No, actually, not at all. I'm the least fun individual.
So yeah, that was like the first luxury watch experience, and it was a nice experience to like get it shipped to me, but I felt like it wasn't that like boutique experience. Obviously,
Right.
I did later experience that.
You've had a boutique
I
experience. I've
have.
never
So
had one. How's that feel versus like the open your own thing and then drag the garbage down to the dumpster?
honestly, it was a little underwhelming. Like
Okay.
that experience kind of like I bought a Grand Seiko at a Grand Seiko authorized dealer, which is a great authorized dealer. I have to say they do a wonderful job, and I had a good experience, and like they treated me very well. But it wasn't something that I felt later like I'm going to pay extra for that
Yeah, I tend
experience.
to buy stuff gently pre-owned too. So like I really kind of skip the middleman and pass the savings straight onto myself.
Yeah,
I don't mind a watch with a little ding on there that's not gonna, save me $2,000. To be
but I mean,
honest.
you can buy a pre-owned watch at a boutique and have like a
That's true.
so like that's like to me, it's not about like new versus pre-owned. It's just about like finding the right avenue and the right watch at the right time. But um, yeah, I don't know. Like at this point in my life, having the champagne experience and like the watch presented to you, and like the way that the brand prescribes from on high in Switzerland or whatever, like is not something that I find like particularly like appealing. That's a part of the luxury buying experience that is
Yeah.
just not. I don't know. It's not a factor.
This is a
For me.
funny little aside. I mean, that reminds me of like just kind of what kind of person I am. When my wife and I were doing like our wedding planning,
Mhm.
we hired a DJ, not a DJ. Well, we hired somebody to play music, and we went into the DJ store, right? Like they have like had a little storefront where they stored their stuff, and like met with the potential bride and grooms, and like pitch them on like what they do. And like I don't want anyone talking. Like I didn't want anyone like yelling and being an MC and loud and whatever. And we're two pretty quiet and don't like the attention kind of people. And this the MC was like, well, you don't want to be announced. And we're like, no, we want to play this one specific song and we want to walk out. And like the Long Island weddings are kind of wild where there's a man yelling and, well, introducing, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So the guy's like, well, let me do a sample intro for you guys. And like, where me and my now wife are sitting in this little storefront in a shopping center, and this guy pops on a wireless mic. He turns on the PA system inside the thing, and he starts getting hyped up, and he does the intro. The now introducing Mr. and Mrs. Jelley for the first time, and like has this like club music going, and like we're both standing there and we're like, yeah, we don't want that. So this man just deflated in front of us. And I feel like
No.
that luxury boutique experience would be very similar for me now, where it's like, no. Like, you don't have to present me the watch in this, like, you know, polish it and here's a drink and oh, they're bringing it out from the back right now. Like, that doesn't really, it's not going to move the needle for me. And I
Yeah.
don't want to be announced anywhere. Just give me the thing and let me go.
Yeah, no, same. Listen, I'm not married. I've never been married. I also don't like the idea of like that. You know, I don't want to be announced. I definitely don't want to be announced in a
No.
Long Island wedding sort of way. I've been to a long. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like
Yeah.
it's like yeah, very, very unappealing.
Yeah.
Very unappealing to me. Any like final thoughts on like, you know, like sort of like the luxury buying experience? Like how has it like affected your like how does it make you kind of like think through other watch sort of like buying experiences? Because like for me, it's sort of in some ways like it kind of makes like buying like a quote unquote like normal watch like feel like, you know, even more, I don't know, it's like special's the wrong word, but like it makes me appreciate kind of like all my watches like a little bit more in some way. I don't really know how to like articulate that. It's just it's a knowing that like the luxury experience isn't like necessarily all it's cracked up to be, I think
Makes buying
makes
stuff a little easier.
yeah, it
You
just
know,
makes
just a little more
it makes it
fun.
easier
You know, just
to enjoy all of it.
let me open it in my quiet office. I don't need to be announced. But like you can still buy something that's meaningful to you. And I think just luxury in general is like what's luxurious to you. I mean, if you're wearing like a Casio F91 and you bump it up to, you know, a mid $500 Seiko, that could be your version of luxury, even though it's not what our definition might be. And
Mhm.
I think just finding something that speaks to you, finding something that you resonate with, and ideally something that you have to, you know, that gives a little bit of a reach to make it like a little extra special. And just, you know, everyone's different, and the boutique experience, obviously that resonates with enough people to where they can justify the real estate in a mall.
Mhm.
But you know, I'm not a super luxury guy over
Yeah.
here. I might have a Speedmaster on, but I don't, you know, I don't consider myself particularly luxe. I'm not impressed by wealth or luxury, but I like nice shiny things.
Yeah. Listen, you say that now, but wait until you're a few more years into your Apple Watch accessory
Dude, I'm sure my
racket. You just
40th birthday, I'm going to justify something absolutely stupid. We'll come back in a couple years. Give me 2
can't
years
wait
and
for that pod. That's
a
gonna be
follow-up pod.
that's gonna be a good one. All right, let's move on to cultural recommendations. I asked you to come up with something that you liked recently for
Yeah.
the cultural recommendations section of the podcast. What have you got, Ed?
So my
What can you recommend?
cultural recommendation was a Super Bowl snack that's probably very near and dear to Zach Kazan. I was eating a jug of Mitchell's fresh salsa, reading the package, and I noticed that it is produced in none other than Concord, New Hampshire. So I imagine you and Mitchell are like best friends, and you guys like go to the same bagel shop and talk about salsa. Is that true, or is that?
I have never heard of this salsa brand ever. I have no idea who Mitchell is. I'm sure he makes a lovely salsa. I'm not, but yeah, no, I have no idea.
He looks
What?
like a pretty cool guy, and he's been established since 2006. So there's brand
Oh
heritage,
wow,
and
there's some real brand heritage there.
some real brand heritage.
Is it
Just
based in Concord or is it just like manufactured in?
he's perfected his signature mild and hot salsas in Concord and won multiple New Hampshire's best awards.
Man,
So I think, you know, if you're in the Northeast, if you're within Mitchell's, I'm completely messing around. I was reading a salsa jug and I said, "Oh, I'm recording a podcast with Zach tomorrow." It's kind of funny that it's in his town there. You can buy the salsa. It's fine. It's good. It was fine. My real cultural recommendation.
that was. I mean, listen, you just sold at least 2 jars of Mitchell salsa.
Dude,
Don't
Mitchell, you can
don't
hit
sell
me
yourself
with the
short.
commissions.
Yeah.
You find my email, you know, whatever. No, I actually have been watching the new Game of Thrones spinoff, Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
Oh, okay.
And it's fantastic. The tone is like kind of weird. There's a couple scenes in particular that we discussed off camera that are NSFW that are kind of jarring and out of place. But like once you kind of get the tone of the show, it's like really fun. Like it hits like a good episode of Game of Thrones with like all the tension and all the kind of great acting and the story. It's based on like a novella by George R. R. Martin that it's very short. So you have 6 episodes. They're like under 40 minutes each. We're 4 episodes in as of February 8th. And I've really been enjoying it. But I think my recommendation would be check that out. Get through the first episode. Check your tone, your tone calibration there, because it's not as dark and grim as you'd think. It's kind of lighthearted, a little goofy, but still hits when it hits.
I've not seen this show. Your recommendation is duly noted. I know a lot of people really like this show. I gotta say, like I'm not a Game of Thrones guy. Like I tried for a long time. Like
Yeah.
I watched it as it aired for the first like I think 3 or 4 seasons, and then I got kind of like I was off of it for one reason, and I tried to catch up, and I realized I don't really remember what was happening. It was so complicated. There's so many storylines and so many characters. I know this sounds like, someone who's like,
You're
like
not a dumb guy. You can follow some stuff, and when you
I'm
got
not
too much to
that's the thing. I'm
follow,
not a
it's
dumb guy. I feel like I'm
no.
relatively capable of following television shows. But for whatever reason, like I just couldn't get wrapped up into Game of Thrones
That's fine.
towards its end. But then like I did catch up like at the end of the
Okay.
series, and I was just so let down by like the famously controversial, and I think
It was a messy ending.
yeah, it was just it was not good. It was not satisfying, and it just put me off. And like these new, like the spinoffs, the new
House of the
new
Dragon
series.
was excruciating. The last season was just absolute.
I just have like
hockey sticks to get through.
Zero interest. I felt like I was, well, maybe not. Well, but yeah, a little duped. I feel like I was a little duped by Game of Thrones.
Well, this one's cool because the source material is done. Like it was a short story basically. It's done. The pacing is great. There's no waiting 10 weeks to get a resolution of a plot line. No families, no nothing. You could watch this without watching Game of Thrones and be just as entertained.
Yeah. Can I tell you one of my favorite? This is just a quick aside. Back in a previous life, before I worked in the watch industry, I worked in higher education administration, and I had a team of financial aid counselors who reported to me. And when we would have a new team member join us, we would always do like in a team meeting, we do like an icebreaker, which is what you do in sort of like corporate America, just to kind of throw everyone
right.
disarms everyone.
Yeah.
And so like the icebreaker for this particular meeting was, what historical period would you like to like go back to?
Oh boy,
if you could. And someone said like Game of Thrones times, and that always stuck with me.
When dragons were real.
Yeah. And I thought that was very funny. I still to this day don't know.
I mean, it's very funny. It looked horrible. Nobody was having a good time.
Yeah, I really, I don't know. I love that. Shout out to that
maybe he just
guy.
wanted to wear a robe in public and like loose linen clothing and just like, I don't know. That's, I get that.
I was probably wearing my Omega Speedmaster at the moment.
Do you still have the Speedmaster?
No. I saw that's long gone. Okay. And I bought another one, and that's also long gone.
Wow.
I think a part of this was just realizing I'm not a Speedmaster guy. So
okay.
Anyway, good cultural.
What's your recommendation? What do you recommend?
So after the Super Bowl last night, I decided I was still kind of like, I wanted to just like watch something, at the end of the night. I wasn't ready to turn in.
Too hyped from the game.
Yeah, and I was not feeling the Olympics coverage last night. Either. So I was just on Netflix, kind of just like looking through to see if there was anything that was interesting to me, and I rewatched one of my favorite movies, After Hours by Martin Scorsese.
I've never seen that.
It's fantastic. Like one of Martin Scorsese's best movies. I think it's probably his best movie made in the 1980s. I like it better than Raging Bull. It's an amazing movie. It's a great New York movie. It takes place, a lot of it takes place in Soho, filmed, largely on location, I would imagine, in a very different, Soho than what exists now. It's like really a time warp. I had forgotten that Catherine O'Hara is in it though. Like she has like a very small role. She kind of shows up like in the back half of the movie, and it's just such a nice surprise to to see her in this movie that I had completely forgotten that she was in. Obviously, she passed away a few weeks ago, which is very sad. Just a fantastic actor. So many iconic roles. We did an episode of Home Alone for Time on
Yeah.
Screen. We'll link to that. We've probably done other movies that she's been in. It's just great. So yeah,
This is interesting. This is it's billed as a dark comedy, and it's got a tight 97-minute runtime.
yeah,
And
great movie to watch like late at night because it's like it's one of those kind of like everything happens in one night.
it's
You
called
know,
After
movies.
Hours.
It's called
and
After
you should
Hours,
watch it late at night.
Yeah, just a great movie. If you haven't seen After Hours, if you've been avoiding it because it's like not your typical kind of Martin Scorsese fare, it's labeled as you said more of a comedy, and it is very funny. But it's kind of like a brilliant sort of like key to understanding like Scorsese during that time. This is like right before like Goodfellas and sort of like the next like that phase of his career where he kind of um, had a bit of a second life. He was a little kind of like I don't know. The '80s were a bit lost for him, and this is sort of like the start of something like much more significant. So yeah, After Hours, just an amazing movie with a supporting role from
It's not the
Catherine O'Hara.
Weekend album. You're not recommending After Hours by The Weekend with no E at the end.
Not on this
correct?
episode,
Okay,
but
all right.
maybe later. Ed, thank you so much for coming on the
Of
pod.
course.
It's always a pleasure to have you. I'll let you get back to shipping those Apple Watch cases.
Let's go.
I hope I hope they all make it to their intended destinations.
That's the dream. You
Yeah.
turn them over to USPS and you say a little prayer. If you're,
Yeah.
I don't pray.
I'm familiar with.
Yeah, just good luck. Good luck. I wish you well to packages and Zach Kazan.
Yes. Thank you, Ed. Thank you to everyone for tuning in again to another episode of the Warner One podcast. We will be back next week with another all new episode. Until then, take care.